everyone. I see we are having a few people joining us. It's such a privilege for us to have a panel of ladies only. And we're quite proud as SAIBPP Women's Forum to have the opportunity to host this event. My name is Fundima Zibuko, and I will be doing the opening remarks. Once I'm done, I will hand over to KG, who will do the facilitation for us. We will aspire to keep to the time and try and make our presentation short. This event could not have come at a better time for us as women. With the effects of COVID, we know most women have suffered through the shutdowns, and this opportunity really is at the right time. We are quite excited about this partnership with the GPF, and I would like to urge all of us here and the ladies that could not make it today to please spread the word, because we would love to see more and more women take advantage of this opportunity. This event in particular speaks directly to one of our objectives. It is to create and to increase more women participation in the industry. We now need to see more women owning these developments. We need to see more women taking part in these opportunities. We've seen previously that these opportunities will be presented, but women will not take up these opportunities. One of the conversations we've had with our committee was to ensure that we track. So if you do go ahead and you take this opportunity, please try and alert us, because we have agreed with the GPF that we will track how many women have applied, where are the bottlenecks, what can we do to see more and more women take up these opportunities. We're quite excited. We've been hard at work. Later in the year, around August, we'll be launching a black book, because we want to elevate and magnify the women in our industry that are working hard, that are making moves. And often we all know we've had people saying, where are the women? We can't find them. The women are here. We are here. This is why we exist. And this is why we are gathered here today, to ensure that we hold hands, we all go after those opportunities. They must not look anywhere. We must go find them, because we are here, we are ready. Women have been hungry for opportunities, and the time is now. So I hope all of us that are here, and if you know anyone who's not here at this stage, but who would benefit from this opportunity, please spread the word. I would hate for us to come back next year and we have no one who's taken up this opportunity. All the speakers that will be speaking are urged to please go onto the top right of your screen. You'll see there's a button there that says view. You need to then click the speaker view. That will allow everyone to see you as the speaker. I want to emphasize the importance of this partnership, and thank you so much to the GPF for partnering with us. We look forward to more opportunities like this. And the biggest thing women are exhausted of hearing is opportunities, but when they pursue them, no one answers their calls, no one responds to them, no one tells them where they went wrong. So it is important for us to have this partnership, and we've agreed, and we are quite excited to have maybe this event annually, just nudge, so that we can be able to track and have posting rights, that we actually do not have just a talk shop. We actually make things happen. We all know that during COVID, once again, the countries that were successful in managing the COVID were countries that had women at the head, at the helm of those businesses, at the helm of those countries. They made a difference. There's a research that we recently saw that stated that companies that have more women in their boards, they actually have less corruption. So we need to really, really take this opportunity seriously and make it happen for ourselves. This, once again, will make sure that we even decrease GPV, because when women are empowered, when women have money in their pockets, they can change lives. And that's what we're striving for. So I don't want to talk much because there's a good lineup of speakers who are ready to feed us the information. I hope you will enjoy it. You have your pen and paper next to you. Take all the information that's going to be shared today. And please do apply. If you're unsure, ask KG, who's going to be facilitating, is going to also share her journey with the GPF. And I think that's really, really important to listen and learn. But thank you so much. Welcome, ladies. It is so exciting to be here. I am not sure whether we're all ladies on the call. I see we currently are sitting at 72 participants, but maybe some of them are here to listen for their sisters, their spouses. If there are men on the call, we welcome them and we want to do this with them. If they can help and put the money as well in the organization, would really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. KG, please take over. I know we are in good hands. Thank you, Ms. Mamabulo.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mazibuko Fundi. And I'm want to say congratulations to you and SAIBPP in the Women's Forum initiation for starting it finally after so many years to have a women-focused committee in the organization. And we appreciate all your efforts as well. Thanks for the welcome. And thank you also to our guests, to everybody who's joined us. The topic today is very critical. It comes at a time where even as SAIBPP, we've been doing a lot of work in terms of looking at how we unlock finance as a business. And Ayanda is going to be taking us through that later. But my role here, and my name is Kaukela Mabolo, my role here is to facilitate this topic. I am past president of SAIBPP. I also sit on the Policy and Advocacy Committee, but I'm an investor by nature in industrial logistics, sales and leaseback, as well as housing, affordable housing. And that's why we'll be here as well to participate. How things will proceed is that we are going to speak around the theme which says closing the margin through GPF funding opportunities in the affordable housing, particularly focused on women. So that is not that men are not important, but today we are going to encourage more women to be participating in that. And the GPF will be taking us through what they're doing to ensuring that. The order of the day is that Ms. Leah Manenza from GPF is going to give us a presentation around exactly that. Following that, we'll have Ayanda Mataza, who will be representing SAIBPP in terms of the objectives around access to funding that I mentioned. I will then come in following her in terms of just giving a light experience around an investor or developer in this affordable housing space and how GPF has been important to solving those things. Then lastly, we will have a question and answer session, which will include Leah, who will be joined by her colleague, Petila Koza, Ayanda, and myself. And we will have SAIBPP helping us fill some of your questions from the chat. If you can put those questions in the chat, but also just for correction to Fundi is that the speaker view is for every member who's attending, so that you can actually be able to see the particular speaker who's speaking instead of seeing everybody. So if you can just go to speaker view on your view and then just change that to allow for you to focus on the speaker or the presenter. With that then, let me then start by introducing Ms. Leah Manenza. So Leah is the Chief Investment and Development Officer of GPF, the Gauteng Partnership Fund. Let's do it properly and then we'll go to GPF after this. But she also has vast experience in enterprise development, around strategies, upgrading of informal settlements and urban renewal. So not only is she now a specialist in terms of delivering this product, but she also understands the environment in which these products are to be managed. Her full profile can be shared by SAIBPP to all members following this presentation. So thank you so much, Leah, for you and Petile to be with us today and to give us opportunities. And then I'll hand over to you for your presentation then.
Thank you so much, and welcome to everyone who's present in the panel today. Yesterday, it was Africa Day, so I'm hoping that the whole month will still be celebrating being Africans. And we're very excited to have an all-female panel today. that's sharing the stage with us. What I'd want to do is to just share a presentation, if it can just be shared on the screen, just introducing who the GPF is, or the Gauteng Partnership Fund, what is it that we do, and what opportunities are there for women. So just going straight on to it, the Gauteng Partnership Fund, I'm not sure who's helping us move. If we can just go to the next slide. Okay, so this is just the background. I'm not going to waste too much time about this. The Gauteng Partnership Fund is a 3C provincial public entity. We report to the Human Settlement Department in Gauteng under MEC Lebogang Maile, and we have a board that is responsible to make sure that they provide oversight and supported by the CEO and executives. The next slide. On the next slide, we then just want to emphasize our mandate, which is linked to why we are here today. So we are responsible for implementing, we are an implementing agent for the Gauteng Human Settlement Development in the Gauteng City region. So when you look at Gauteng, we don't just look at it just from a small scale, we look at Gauteng in its entirety. And we also are custodians of land and property transferred to us and implementation of mega projects. The next slide. I want to get to the nice stuff quicker, why we're here and what opportunities are there. Our role, obviously, we play an intermediary between government and finance institution, private sector, and that is why we are here today. Partnerships like with SAIBPP, working with developers and banks, but also working with the various agencies. So because we provide a concessionary type of fund, and we try and make sure that we package our facilities for affordability-based purposes. And that is why we always will refer back to affordable housing. And so we look at how we can put together funding packages that can achieve that purpose. On the next slide, we then focus on the funding approach for women. So since 2019, the GPF has taken a proactive step to say we are empowering women entities. And you'll hear later on, Petile is going to speak about some of the challenges that women have had or experienced in the development space. Last year, as much as we put it as something that we've done, we approved around 8.5 million of loans towards HDI women-owned entities. This is not good. If you look at the overall loan book or what we approved last year, 8.5 is just about 12% of the overall book that we approved. And that is why in this current financial year, we are very clear to say anything that we approve, 50% of the loans that we are going to approve this year, 50% of it must go to women. So if we're going to approve 100 million, 50 million must go to women. And that's a target that we've set for ourselves. And the question is why? And that's why I would want to get to the next slide. Why would it be so important for us to want to work with women to make sure that they participate? If you look at the statistics, 2020 midterm report from Stats SA, it was estimated that we have a population of around 59.62 million, and 51% of that, 51.1 being of the population being women. And in Gauteng, we're sitting at approximately 15.5 million, and which is 26% of people living in this province. And majority of them is Black people. So that is why with GPF, we are very clear. We support Black-owned or previously disadvantaged individuals from Gauteng specifically. And we are clear that our focus now is with women. The next slide just talks about the poverty and inequality survey or research that was done by the Gauteng City Region Observatory. That's research report number 9. If anybody's interested to look at it, it was issued in June 2018. What is said is that the level of poverty is sitting highly amongst Africans, and most of it being women. If you look at just the first point, so you have a ratio of females to male, so for every 2 women, 2 males, you have 1 poor woman. And on female-headed households were below the upper poverty line of 577. So you look at poverty, you look at female headed families, you look at how much they get, you realize that there's still a huge challenge. So the poverty gap for female-headed households stood at 17.3%, while that of male-headed households was less than 8.8%. So there's a huge gap, and there's a need for us to really be supporting women. In the next slide, we start to look at why Gauteng is such an important powerhouse and why we have had to look at what we structure so that we support. You know, everybody comes to Gauteng, right? We move from everywhere else in South Africa and come here because there's opportunities. We know that construction is one of those sectors that are still performing. So as the numbers come in, I mean, it's estimated that over 300,000 people come to Gauteng annually. That means there'll always be a need for housing. And we know that the rental market is also very critical because most people, because they are not from Gauteng, they don't necessarily want to settle permanently, but they want to have affordable rental space because economic opportunities are here. The next slide. In the next slide, we then start talking to I'm noting Petila will be dealing with exactly that, why the approval rates were so low. But specifically for last year, you'd know that with COVID, a lot of programs were on hold, especially construction. But people were also very cautious, especially developers, in submitting because they were not sure whether they'll get sufficient tenants. So our pipeline last year was just generally very, very low. And those are the challenges. Okay. So in terms of the housing gap, we have over 1.2 million housing units backlog in Gauteng. So, and that talks to RDP and all other different programs that are meant to deliver housing programs. And so our government has made grants available. Typically these programs target households with income of around 3,500, and that would be for people who are interested in RDP. There's a whole criteria that needs to be met there. And 3,500 to 20,000 for flex, social housing, and others. And we know that the banks normally would not approve anything that is less than 15,000 per month for a bond. So it's because of these, from a context point of view, that it's become important that we look at specific programs. And now I'd want to go straight onto the opportunities that are available within the GPF and the various programs that we have. Just on the programs, we have the rental fund, we've got the EEPF, and I think everyone would most likely be interested in this because this is an incubator program designed to encourage first-time developers onto the development space. And the various ones, I'm not going to go and list these ones, people can then go through. The next slide. I will just be highlighting how we have structured these funds. In terms of our investment process, yes, we will receive an application, we go through the assessment process, we look at risks and how we can control those, and then take those through to our various committees. So depending on how much you are applying for, we will then take it to the various committees. Having looked at all of these, they assessed technically, looked at the credit, looked at the risks, and then start going on to the investment side. The next slide, I start to speak about the eligibility for funding. Who comes to the Gauteng Partnership Fund? Well, how it's done is that we test the qualification of project for funding. And part of what we look at is that the project must be within the mandate of the GPF that are aligned to the Department of Human Settlements strategic direction, with regard specifically to affordable housing investments. We fund developments that will provide affordable housing to household earning gross monthly income of between 3,500 and 20,000. And obviously these are adjusted annually in terms of the CPI, and maximum rentals charged should be up to 35% of the affordable housing income bracket in the first year of operation, and thereafter is increased. The next slide. GPF also does, we do co-funding with other funding institutions, and now and then, sometimes we do consider funding certain projects on their own, as long as not exceeding 8 million. In terms of the minimum unit sizes for the affordable housing, we are listing them there between 25 square meters, if it's bachelor, to 55 square meters for your 3-bedroom units. And this is important when you're putting together a submission or a proposal that is earmarked for GPF. In the next slide, I start to look at the loan pricing. As indicated, we are interested to support 100% BBBE HDI shareholding. And that would be for those, we charge a GBA plus 3% for years between 1 and 20. If it's 51% to 99%, it's a GBA plus 4. But on EEPF funding, we look at 100% HDI shareholding, where GPF contributes 40% of the total debt. The percentage that we add includes an interest-free loan of a maximum of 2 million that is repayable from year 6 post-moratorium. And this is important, especially for first-time developers, to understand that it's one of the ways that we are encouraging developers. So a lot of women, we are expecting to see applications flowing in from this session. And the borrower is expected to contribute at least a minimum of 3% equity, which is far less than what your traditional banks would ask for. The next one, we then start to look at rental housing fund, and I give also the different loan pricing structures that are informed by the HDI shareholding. And based on that, we then determine what is an appropriate amount. For student accommodation, it's the same as above. The only difference is that the minimum contribution from a developer would be 10% equity. And the project must be located within 10 kilometers radius of the targeted tertiary institution. If it's above 10 kilometers, but within 20 kilometers, we do consider those with the approval of the board. Next slide. Yeah, I think that's that. So please make sure that you take a screenshot of our contact details. That's how you get hold of us. If you've got product-specific inquiries, we've made sure that we give you direct email lines of the colleagues within the GPF that are responsible for the various products that we've shared with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leah. I'm glad that to also see that you actually expanding your products that you offer into the market, and I'm hoping we'll talk a bit more in terms of some of the ones that we're not familiar with later on with you and Petsile. And thank you for your presentation, which will be made available to members following the session. I'd like to next invite Ayanda Makaza. Ayanda is the founder and director of TaxSmith Consulting, and they do development management, project management, as well as quantity surveying. But also she is the member of the SAIBPP Policy and Advocacy Committee, as well as vice chairperson of the SAIBPP Women's Forum. Ayanda is going to give us a topic that focuses on particularly what SAIBPP's Policy and Advocacy Committee is perspective in terms of access to funding and how we can link up with GPF as a partner. Thanks, Ayanda.
Thank you, KG, for the platform, and thank you to everyone who has tuned in. As mentioned by KG, my name is Ayanda Makaza. I am founder and director at TaskSmith Consulting, but today I will be speaking in my capacity as a SAIBPP member. I am a policy and advocacy committee member, which is where a lot of this thought work has been generated. And I also am vice chair on the Women's Forum at SAIBPP. So I think today my position is to just knit together how the vision of SAIBPP fits in with GPF. And I hope to do this through the expression of our work in access to finance. Access to finance is a key pillar in the envisaged work that we're doing at SAIBPP, and it comes out quite strongly in our manifesto, where we plan to catalyze transformation through facilitating access to finance. So some of the ways that we intend to do this, which you've termed our objectives, is through influencing lending practices and policies to the advantage of Black participants, much like our members. We also want to elevate direct property investment as an investment class in the financial services sector. And then we are also looking at generating reliable information about funding sources and avenues to our members. This we see as a way that will start to unlock some of the blockages that, present themselves. And now you start to see there's less representation of Black people in the property value chain at this instance. So some of the inhibitors that we have highlighted include a conventional approach to unlocking equity contribution. Anyone in the space has been in the conversation of equity and skin in the game. So naturally, this is a relevant conversation, in fact, quite an important one. And how we are working as SAIB to now influence the conversation is to look at more creative ways to enable Black participants and maybe go a step higher and even include women in the approach of gender transformation. The second issue that does come up often in the instance of access to finance is the subject of security, where people such as our members may not necessarily have a limited asset base, so cannot easily satisfy the security requirements that come up. Then lastly, we've also observed in some of our high-level research work that some of the development finance institutions in South Africa do not focus on property as a direct investment class. So we think there's a lot of room to then make changes in this space. And in fact, some of the work that we are actioning is exactly about addressing those blockages. So we are engaging quite intently with industry stakeholders to influence and change lending criteria and how this is now is still aligned to the conventional school of thought that we have discussed. We have formed collaborations with identified stakeholders, such as pension funds, private equity houses, venture capitalists, and now GPF, our co-partner on the webinar. Because we definitely think there is a need to be a lot more creative in how we generate products that can address the story of equity and security, which ultimately unlocks those opportunities to Black participants. We're also pursuing this partnership with stakeholders because we need to find ways to promote direct property investment. And in this fashion, if investors invest directly, it definitely creates more traffic in the space of access to finance for this asset class, and may also promote then competitive pricing in the lending costs. We also do feel quite strongly that, organized information that is easily accessible is quite a powerful tool that people can use in this process. So we are generating platforms that our members can then access information easily and find ways to answer questions around who is financing in the space, what type of product are they offering, and how do I qualify for it. This then leads to now how we see ourselves fitting in with GPF, who are already putting a concerted effort towards generating funding or access to finance for previously disadvantaged participants, and creating products that can allow access, such as the EEPF that has been mentioned, the rental housing fund, and I know there's work, there's even finance that is generated towards student accommodation. They start to pioneer the thoughts around how do you change the rates, how do you change the costs, how do you make it easier for people to get into the space. So we hope to work closely with the GPF team as a communication partner as well, to put out the information reliably, credibly, and reach all the people that are a part of our membership. And as a value add, we see potential to track the performance of how have we how do we bring value to the table? If our members go to GPF and start to exercise the opportunities, it would be great to track then what comes of it, as Fundi has mentioned. So I think there's a lot of room to start growing in this space with partners and stakeholders such as GPF. And my parting shot is to then accentuate the call to action for women. We need to be seen and heard in these spaces, and we need to grab hold of these opportunities and start changing the numbers and the look of the environment in the property value chain. Thank you, KG. Back to you.
Thank you, Ayanda. I think that really has brought up in terms of for members to understand exactly where we are as SAIBPP in terms of overall trying to at least enhance the access to funding for property practitioners. And GPF is a critical player in this, and I'm hoping that the partnership is going to help us achieve at least part of that, although there's a bigger picture and more people to be speaking to. With that, I'm just going to come in here. Mine is not a presentation, but just to give my perspective or a bit of the importance of GPF to our journey in terms of the affordable housing space. So before one even gets finance from a bank or a funding institution into your project, there is a lot of work and a lot of money that one needs to take out of their pocket to start the process already, and time. I recall UCT did a study that it can take you up to 6 to 8 years to get a development concluded from the moment you can secure land. And it's right, I know, because I'm somehow experiencing it. But I'll get to that. But anyway, so you can actually, in this type of spaces in affordable housing, you will mostly find them in townships or in inner city areas, right? Hopefully in townships where it's growing, is such that at least land will be, township establishments will be done, but sometimes you may have had to do that because some of the land may still be agricultural, depending on the urban sprawl. So there is cost that will go there towards municipal applications and the likes, and getting bulk services and the works. But anyway, let's just say that that is taken care of. You still have to secure the land, you still have to buy the land, there's valuations that get done, you need to figure out that the right zoning is there. Survey generals, diagrams will need to be done. There'll be geotechnical reports that need to be done to inform the design. You will then have to get a team who hopefully can work at risk, but if not, you're going to have to pay them initially in terms of an architect who will put together a scheme for you, as well as the quantity surveyor who will cost it for you, right? So already you've incurred lots of money. And of course, there's municipal rates and taxes, which become your holding cost. So you can imagine if I bought a property in 2016, 2017, and I still haven't built, I'm still incurring those costs myself as an investor or a developer, or collectively as we are. So now we've done all that work, and you're satisfied that it meets the returns. We've put together a development cost report and some income assumptions. Also, you must have a market research as well. So now you want to take your business case to a financer. So typically, if this was in a commercial or developed area, and possibly was not necessarily low-income housing or something else, was more commercial. Not that commercial is doing great now. The bank will probably give you an average of about 70% or 60-70% in terms of a senior loan. And then you're going to have to go find the 30% to 40% equity somewhere else. Your own pocket, your other investors, or some mezz funding or something in between. Now, as Leah mentioned earlier, the banks don't typically give you lots of money into areas such as townships and CBDs. So the model, the importance then of GPF, what it did to our development in particular is that, and I think we're given money via the rental fund. So unfortunately, we're not the 3% EPF people, and I wish I had been, But anyway, regardless that, there's, so the GPF is able to then come in and put together a bridging capital for what would have been typically your 40 to 30%, 40%, to then narrow down my requirement to about close to 10%, right? How they've also assisted in the process is that they've been able to secure for us a senior, so they call themselves a junior lender in the mix. So their money will then bridge the capital for my equity, but it also bridges the money for a senior lender who would not give you the 70%, 60%, but something less, where their money also matches that side. So it's called a junior debt to sort of solve both the situations. But what they've done is that they then went to get the senior loan on our behalf. So we didn't have to go and actually approach a bank to do this. So it played a very critical role in terms of somebody who wants to be in a space that they partner with. But then I didn't have to go and find the money myself because GPF was administering on my behalf. So it's actually been a big help to the journey, which has been long. It was not our first time that we went to GPF for this particular scheme. The first time we were not rejected, we were told that it's not going to work. We got the right feedback, but we also realized that on our side, there were some things that didn't work out that we had to rectify. So we had to start the process afresh. I recall the second time around is that we were all busy doing our work. We had to actually bring in somebody who's been through the process to help us at least fast track it. So I think this is very critical. When you don't know, try and find people who know, collaborate with them, ask for assistance, because if I've done this process before, I can easily help you to say, these are the steps you need to go, these are the people you need to speak to, look out for those things. So let's not be shy as women to actually also ask for help, collaborate. Sometimes you're going to have to part with money, but well, so be it, because you need to put some skin in the game to get things going. So that 10%, just to be clear as well, is that it includes all that feasibility work I was talking about, the getting the surveyors, the market research, the feasibility itself and the work. So if, let's say, they give me a 10%, it will be that money plus the remaining shortfall to get to 10%. So there's an upfront that we spend on, and then you have to also match it by putting more money before then you get access to their funding. But ultimately, sometimes we always criticize government that they don't deliver. But I think this time around, we need to acknowledge that definitely the province has set up something that we've seen its track record. It is helpful, and I'm hoping that SAIBPP members, women in SAIBPP, can definitely take up the opportunity. And then one thing I'll tell you, I didn't go there as majority women. It was equal share with men, but it's telling a lot, because I would have preferred to go in a structure that is supportive of more women. And I'm hoping that today I can come out saying, look, you men, reduce your shareholding, we coming in, because then we can then start getting more women in participating in this. And that's from me on my side. And I think right now I need to then regroup with the speakers, Ayana and Leah, in terms of the question answers session. I'm going to need a bit of help from SAIBPP to also look at the chat in terms of questions being asked there. We will be joined by Petsile Koza, who is a project analyst at GPF with a successful track record in business development and deal structuring under the Entrepreneurship Empowerment Property Fund, which is what we call EEPF. And she is going to tell us about the targets at GPF and how that has been working. So in opening the Q&A, I know I'm playing facilitator, I'm playing speaker, I'm now doing Q&A with everybody, but I'm sure we will have fun while we go through it with the rest of the panel. Petile, because you haven't actually spoken, I'd like to just ask you, I have a bit of I said earlier, I wish I would have gone into the 3% EEPF role, but then I think we've got the rental fund side of it. What is the difference there? What goes the extra mile for an EEPF versus a rental fund? Because I think there will be new entrants coming in, and I think it's quite important that people understand those different differentiations.
Okay, thank you, Hello. I hope I'm audible to everybody else out there. And thank you everybody for joining the workshop or the seminar. Just a quick one. When it comes to the Empowerment Fund, it used to be a closed group until sometime in 2019 when we decided that it's open to everybody. So we used to do an intake annually where we go out on tender, sort of a tender advertisement, and then we'll take in participants from there. But since 2019, we decided that it is open to actually any 100% Black-owned entity that walks into the company. I think you missed it by maybe a year or a couple of months. That's why you didn't fall under the 3%. You ended up falling under the rental housing fund. But the fundamental differences when it comes to the rental housing fund and the EPF is that we look at new entrants in the industry because we're going to give you a more hands-on approach. We will assist you with the technical team, the GPF technical team internally. We will assist you with making sure that your costing is actually in line with what you're trying to do, because what we've picked up is that new entrants don't actually know how to read their costing and also their building plans and everything. So you find that the professional team doesn't explain to detail what they're getting themselves into. So the GPF technical team will assist them. Secondly, the exposure that GPF gives you under the EPF is 40% of the total project cost, and yet in the other funds or the other programs that we have, it is actually lesser than that. It's up to a maximum of 30%. But that 40% that we give you includes the interest-free loan, which is up to 2 million, as Leah has said earlier. And then also over and above that, we give you a very low interest rate under the EPF. Actually, it's the lowest in the company. For the first 5 years, you're getting a rate of JIBA plus 0.5. So if you're coming in right now, JIBA is sitting at 3.8%. So plus 5%, you're getting about 4.3% interest rate for the first 5 years. And then it's stepped up by 1% every 5 years. And then also, the approach when it comes to the Empowerment Fund is that we need to give you more information and more of a hand-holding exercise, because we know you don't have the experience. Previously, we used to have mentors who would assist with all that, but now we're doing it in-house. We are supposed to be available 24/7 for our clients. So whenever they need us, we need to be available for them. So those are the fundamental differences when it comes to EPF and the rental housing fund. With the rental housing fund, we're actually assuming that you're an experienced developer. You know what you're doing, so you don't need us to be attending you don't need us to be attending your meetings, your site meetings and everything. So we believe that you know what you're doing. But with the Empowerment Fund, we will go to site with you, we'll attend site meetings. Another thing under the Empowerment Fund, you were lucky to get senior funding. Unfortunately, that pool has been exhausted. So clients have to go and seek senior funding themselves now. But we are willing to go to those meetings with you, to the senior funder. We are willing to actually share our documentation with the funder when it comes to the financial model and everything. So it's a more of a hands-on approach when it comes to that.
Thanks so much. There's been some questions from the floor in terms of to you and Leah, I suppose. One, Sneaky asked whether it's like to participate to stand the 3% equity fund, but what happens is under other instruments for those who don't have the skin in the game? And also another question from Atabo says, or somebody said, how can one be part of an incubator program?
Okay, can you repeat the first question? How can you were breaking a bit there?
Any one of you ladies can answer both questions. The first one is that they understand that there is a 3% skin in the game required for one to bring, but what happens where one does not have equity to put in? Is there any other structure that supports 100% loan, I suppose? Yeah. I know it's a tough one.
It is. Unfortunately, currently we don't have a program like that. We are looking at expanding our products that we offer in the company. It's something that we might be looking at a later stage, but currently you need to put in that minimum equity of 3%, but also that 3%, it also depends on project viability. The less viable the project, the more equity that comes in as well. But currently we don't have anything that is 100% funding without any equity. Even the projects, I think if people noticed in the presentation that we had, there was a total funding project cost of 8 million, which we are willing to look at as GPF. It just means that GPF will fund you up to 97% if you're putting in the 3%. You don't have to go look for senior funding. So our exposure will be just that. But currently, we don't have a program that way clients don't have to put in anything, unfortunately. But it is something we're definitely looking at.
Leah, you also had something to put on the chat around that about skin in the game.
Skin in the game is important. There's no way. It shows commitments, and I think it should really be a habit that if you're going to seek investment, you must be willing. If somebody is going to buy a product, you must also be willing to put in something from your side. So, yeah, 3% I think is very reasonable.
Thanks.
And I think, Patty, you can then speak about how people can participate on the EPF.
Incubator program,
Yeah, KG, I also wanted to step in on the skin in the game conversation and just highlight that from our perspective, we are obviously looking at making access possible. So we are moving from an environment where skin in the game, as mentioned, would be 30 to 40%, and now we're seeing those numbers drop. But I think this is just a way of encouraging people and saying, look, with the minimum that you have, you can definitely tap into opportunities. But it will be very rare to then see an opportunity that requires no commitment from you. So I think what we are trying to put forward as SAIBPP is to say, we want to lessen that gap, lessen the burden, but not completely remove it, because it's a critical part of the process. Thank you.
Definitely, Ayanda. And I think it's also then to not just then rely, if you're going to then look for a remaining 3% type of contribution, you need to go and find it somehow in another form of a debt if you have to. But sometimes being over indebted is also a problem. So, the size of the project will also help you determine what is your appetite. So if GPF comes through and gives you 3%, you must know what you can fork out from your, and remember guys, we must partner with people. I didn't go into the scheme alone, I went with other people. So that 10% or 3% is not as high as it would have, because I've partnered now and I've taken a stake in a small project, but it's a start. It's gonna get us somewhere. Just to move to the next questions we've got, and they're very linked. Tabo asked, Kobokane asked about why is the approval rate of the projects so low by GPF? If you can give us the number of applications and the portions approved, and what are the reasons for rejection? A very follow-up question and typical that is very close to it. They're asking, why do some projects fail? To you, Petile and Leah.
Okay, I will go in first. The reason why some of these projects fail is because of costing. What we have picked up in majority of our projects is that the quantity surveyors do not actually cover the 100% of the costing of the costs that you're going to incur. In some instances, you find that a whole slab is missing, and then you pick those things up when the project is running. And it's a problem, because we're doing affordable housing, your cost will be limited in a way, if I can put it that way, so that your rentals can cover that, your income can cover your debt. But in some instances, you find that your project QS didn't cost your project properly, and that's one of the major reasons we're picking up. The second reason, you might find that your area that we looked at, before, like for example, yourself, you came in 2017, everything was rosy, but now because of the current economic conditions that we're under, things are looking terrible. Your vacancy rate is no longer 5%, it's 17% and stuff like that. So it's a cocktail of reasons why projects fail, but majority it's when it comes to the professional team. Our professional team that we find in our projects are not giving our clients proper advice and proper quality work that would actually ensure the success of the project. So those are the few reasons that we've picked up. The contractor as well is one of the major reasons why projects fail. Because you find that, beams are slanted, you need to now demolish the whole foundation or the whole first first floor slab, you need to demolish, and that is cost, it's more cost to the project, and you're doing affordable housing. So the professional team has been really a letdown when it comes to most of the projects. Excuse me. And for most clients, because they're first-time developers, they are not sure of what to look out for. That's why we ended up deciding that we need to be more involved in this project. We need to attend the site meetings and see what is being developed on the ground. So those are the major reasons why we're seeing the failure in projects. But just to answer the first question, when it comes to the applications that we've approved so far, just as Leah indicated earlier, 2020 was a bad year for everybody. Everybody was sort of, the risk appetite wasn't big. So we received fewer applications than normal. I think our pipeline was sitting at 50 million or so. And because we also needed to change how we look at projects because of the current economic conditions, our vacancy rates, our assumptions, they became more conservative. Because of that, most of this project couldn't meet our minimum criteria. So we work with the clients though, to see how we can make it work. It's just that it takes a bit of a longer time to get your approvals now than it did a year before. So those are the reasons that we're picking up right now.
Thank you, Petsile. Leah, do you want to add anything there?
No, I think we're fully covered.
Thank you. And then Vuiswa, CEO of SAIBPP. Hey, Vuiswa, we didn't know you in the house. She's asking about what is the minimum and maximum thresholds for GDP for investing? Hello, Leah Petsile.
Okay, our minimum, we look at the number of units. We're looking at 15 units that you can invest in. We are actually limiting in a way when it comes to the EPF program. We like our first entrance to look at projects of up to 20 million. And not above that, just because they're new in the industry, so that at least they start getting experience first before they can look at a bigger project. But even if you do bring in a bigger project, just remember that it's got an equity, the equity will go up, so it will definitely affect your equity contribution, as well as your professional team needs to be very strong because you're very new in the industry, you don't have much experience. So your professional team needs to be very strong, and we need to vet that professional team to make sure that they'll be able to deliver a project of that magnitude. But we do limit you to about 20 million as a first entrance.
Okay, I've also got a follow-on question about what do you consider low-cost housing? Is there a benchmark for price per unit?
We kept rentals. So right now, your rental is kept at 6,000 rand per month, at least on a 2-bedroom unit, not on a 1-bed. So for us to consider a project affordable housing, that's what we're looking at. You're looking at a range of the total household income that you're catering for is between 3,500 to 20,000. So that's the market you're building for. And with that total household income, you can't charge a rental of 6,000 of more than 6,000 rand per unit. So that's what we call affordable housing. But also, I think they also need to remember that it's also dependent on the area. You can't charge a rental of 6,000 in Soweto. You know, it all depends on the area. So yeah, that's what we consider affordable housing. Thanks, Africa.
And then I've got a question from Tandeka. This is for SAIBPP. And I'm going to answer it for you, Tandeka. If there's a mentorship program where people can learn more about property development, SAIBPP does have a program. I think due to COVID, there was a bit of a break in terms of offering that. I do mentor on it. It's offered by SAIBPP in collaboration with Francois Verelu and Henry Titsulu and Sean Goroy, where they do have an entrepreneurship development program. So I think if you just contact the SAIBPP office, they will give you more information around it. So part of it is that you must, I'll ask Vuiswa and team to just then give Tandeka Sibanyoni feedback in terms of that program. Yeah, thanks. And then I've also got Mpho Makubele. Thank you, Mpho. Mpho says that Khagole mentioned how costs for upfront professional fees can easily add up. Ndao Architecture has dedicated some resources to do architectural work at risk. You can email them at ntsako@ndaw.co.za. Thank you very much. I think that is, you know, when people are proactive like that, that is what we need in terms of collaboration and putting things on the table. But also don't, guys, when somebody says they're going to work at risk, remember is that you must at least give them something to compensate when you get the funding if they can't be vetted and approved by GPF. And that's another thing is that when you then get the funding, the team that you're going to use, the professionals, the architect, the project manager, as well as support and the contractor have to be approved by the GPF. That's quite important. So even if you go with somebody at risk at the beginning, if they have to change because they're not vetted and approved by GPF, that's where you're going to have to find a way to compensate for their initial stages of work. I don't see any other questions from the floor. I've got a question in terms of just a plea, if I may, Leah and Petile. You know, it's good that Gauteng is the focus of this type of funding, but I think there's opportunity as well for other provinces to get such an initiative. And is there anything from the national government, the housing, whether you could be able to extend this to at least Western Cape and KZN?
Sure. Yeah, that's a very difficult question to answer. We always say Gauteng, it all begins here. Everything starts in Gauteng and then it goes everywhere else. There's programs like the HDA, which is a national agency for human settlements or housing, who have various programs as well, who can then be contacted. But each province would have its own priorities. And Gauteng, fortunately, everything begins here. I think once people can then replicate what we are doing here in the various provinces. But I know in terms of student accommodation, we've been leading, we're working with municipalities, your Josh Coast and the likes, to help them implement some of the student accommodation programs that they have. On social housing as well, we are looking at the 30% debt funding for social housing for those that have been approved by SHRA. So there's various products and programs that people can still participate in. And I think it would be important that they visit our website just to have a sense of some of the programs that we have.
Thank you, Leah. And I'm going to come to a final question from a member. Lomi Mukoka says, what is the average lead time between the date of submitting an application to the date of approval? Any one of you, Leah and Petile, can answer this?
It is anything between 2 to 3 months, depending on the information that you've submitted. If you give us the full information, it could be a lesser period. The reason it takes a bit of time is because we need to do a due diligence on the property, on the company that is applying, and also on the project that you're embarking on, and that would take almost a month to do just that. So that's why it takes a bit of time. But besides that, it's 2 to 3 months.
Thank you so much. And with that, I would like to wrap up this Q&A and also wrap up the conversation for the day. I think the questions that were asked by the audience, thank you very much for actually participating, those who offered support. And thank you to Lucy for saying that you're hoping I can inspire more people in terms of my journey shared. I definitely hope so. I want to see more of us getting into it. And Ayanda and SAIBPP, in terms of the work that is happening with the Women's Forum, as well as the policy committee, which I'm also going to be part of. I'm hoping that with this critical conversation we had with the GPF, it's a start of bigger things that we'll do in collaboration with all the stakeholders that you mentioned in the presentation. But GPF, really, you have no idea how this timing of this conversation is so critical, because Ayana and I finished the access to funding roadmap literally a week ago. And you were one of the key people that we wanted to start being on that information platform where you are going to be able to allow SAIBPP to share with their members exactly what you do. And I'm glad that you gave the presentation today, because it starts informing that. But hopefully in future, we can have a number of institutions that we can put together in one area for our members to have a snapshot to say, this is where I can go for this and this and that. And also it's quite nice to see that you're also supporting the SHRA, which is also a stakeholder that last year we got to host as well during the hard lockdown. That is also a nice partner to SAIBPP. So there's already collaboration with a number of the institutions under your department. And I'm very excited that we can actually get to do that. But also to our members, guys, you know, we can have everybody putting all this together. SAIBPP can be doing their policy and advocacy work. The Women's Forum can be bringing this closer to women, and we'll have GPF and the partners in terms of giving those opportunities for us. Do consider that 3%, you know, sometimes I say it's a matter of sometimes just giving up the bonus to buy nice things to accumulate it towards doing something. That's where we all come from. We had to sacrifice something for us to get that 3% or that 10%. So please do take up these opportunities. Come and ask. Join SAIBPP programs that you have to join to get yourself informed. Join other programs that other institutions are offering. Come ask us the questions. We are here. And also, please also just inform SAIBPP office about some of the things you'd like to know about, because we as the people around the table can decide what we think you want to know about. But you are the members. You are the ones that pay the fees. We are doing this for the members. So please do come to us. Please go to the office and voice your thoughts, because then we can incorporate it in whatever we offer you, or whatever partnership going forward with the GPF will be in terms of how we come back to speak to you. So with that, I want to thank you, ladies. I really appreciate your time, as well as speaking to the audience. SAIBPP, GPF, thank you to our guests. Thank you, Ayanda, for the presentations, and Fundi at the Women's Forum, the SAIBPP office, for your facilitating that this program actually happens. And with that, unless somebody has something very, Ayanda, I don't know if anything you were given a mandate to close on the Women's Forum behalf, since Fundi has left us. Is there anything else you'd like to just say goodbye, or just anything?
Yeah, I think you've touched on it quite widely, but I know from the chair's position, as well as SAIBPP in general, we want to push people, and specifically women, to really take up these opportunities. And like you said, it doesn't take one shot, you know, you need to go back over and over again until you've refined it to a product that can be taken forward. So we've just got to do it now. We've got to get there and do it. Thank you.
Thank you. And the emails will be shared by the office. And I think in the chat group, there's also some information. If you can quickly just go through before we log out, I'll just give a few minutes for you to be able to just see. Vuisa has given the registration details for one to become a member of SAIBPP. It's members at SAIBPP.co.za. I'm just trying to see if there's any other information. There's also a SAIBPP Connect, where you can engage and network with professionals and developers in the industry. The link to it is SAIBPConnect.co.za. And then some people have asked they put together the emails for recordings to be sent to. The office will look at this recording and send them to you. But thank you very much, everybody. And those that appreciated the words of saying that you appreciated the efforts and the initiative, and that you found it useful, we thank you for those comments. And to everybody, have a beautiful rest of the day. And we are